What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Wild podcast. You see what I did there? This is our second episode. We're so excited to bring it to you. You can find us at Into the Wild NFL on all our socials, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. After our first episode, we got a lot of feedback, and we are ready to dive into draft season head first after our mock draft during the first episode. So if you haven't seen that, head over to our Instagram page, check it out. I'm your host, Nadim, along with my co-hosts, Wase and Adil, and we are ready to get into it. How we feeling, boys?
Doing good, man. How you feeling?
Yeah, it's a good day.
Gloomy day.
Listen, I'd like to come out. I'd like to address something. Last week, it was pretty late. I had a long day. Give a second, man. Don't stop. I'm talking to the crowd. Guys, I got a hard life here. I wake up, take my lunch pail to work. I go into work too. I'm not in this.
Bro, don't you work from home?
I take my lunch pail into my study room, and I work for hours and hours on end. And with that, at that point, it had been 18 hours up awake at that time. When I traded back into the first round, I thought, I swear to you, in that moment, I thought I did something. I was like, this was the 34. I was like, dude, I'm perfect. The Texans, honestly speaking, the Texans could draft multiple tackles, multiple guards, whatever, across the board. Trading into the first again for that, I apologize. That one's on me. I won't say that it won't happen again. It will.
It's not even the most egregious thing. It's like you chose one of like the worst tackles in the draft to join under the first round.
No, worse. No. That's what we never done. Connerly is pretty solid. Nobody would trade up into the draft to get Connerly.
It's all good. Hey, we're growing on this show. We'll constantly develop each episode. So without further ado, let's jump into the news and notes. So the biggest story on the week is Nico Lamaleava. He's leaving Tennessee after wanting a $4 million NIL deal. Tennessee wouldn't give it to him, and instead they just shipped him out. And he's a high-performing player. This is one of the craziest moves that we've had so far in the NIL world. How do you guys feel about this?
I mean, I'm for him getting his bread. I would never want a player who, an institution that basically makes money off of the students' likeness and them not being able to earn money off of it. I think NIL is great for the college football or the NCAA. I think what has happened in terms of like when it happened is the most important thing versus why it happened. I think this late into spring offseason football activities that are occurring, he now has to find a transfer portal school to go to.
Wait, I do have a question here. Can someone explain something to me here?
Yeah.
The transfer portal window has closed, right?
No. So the transfer portal window is still open, but he can't do interconference transfers. So now he can't go in the SEC. He might have to go to like the Big 10 or the Big 12. And that's the big.
He can't do interconference or interconference. He can't go to anyone else in the SEC.
Interconferences. He can't go anyone.
He can't go into the SEC.
SEC. So Hurts is, and then now, not only that, he can't declare for the draft next year.
Really?
So
I didn't know that. And I actually.
A lot of issues that comes with it. But he needed an extra year on top of it anyways. Who cares? But I mean, like, get your money, man. What I don't like about the NCAA is that people want you to like have like this communist mentality towards it. Why should this player like only earn his scholarship versus getting money that he can earn through endorsements and whatnot? So I'm for it. If schools want top talent, pay for it. Yeah.
I don't really understand the whole concept of NIL in its current form, right? It just seems like the NCAA is not regulating NIL in any way. It seems like all the big name schools are now starting to get all the top players, and some of the smaller schools aren't going to be able to survive. And then on top of that, where's the development anymore in these players, right? So where's the continuity? Where is he going to go that's going to give him a better outlook than where he currently is? I don't know of any school by far that would be able to help him out. NIL in its current form is ruining the NCAA. So
yeah, but I mean, there's good offensive minds out in the league still. Like if he went to somewhere like like an LSU or Jaden Daniels skyrocketed in his years there, versus where he was at ASU before, or if he goes to like,
Julian, where's the honor? Where's the loyalty?
there's
Where's
no
the
team
honor?
pride. There's no team pride.
Oh my God,
that's what you're talking about.
this is such a
There's-
boomer take.
Honor.
Who cares?
Where's the freaking honor? You come in, you make a commitment, you're a man of your word, and then you just don't show up. You're like, sorry, I'm going to be a diva from the age of 20. At this point, you're hurting your draft stock. What else is going on here?
Also, like, does this open the door for other players that feel like they're not getting paid enough to do this exact same thing? This is going
It's
to be like
already been
catalyst
happening.
to so much chaos.
Pay your players. They bring in so much money for you, not only in merchandising, ticket sales. Like people want to come watch these players. Pay the players what they're owed. This is not to just mention like the merchandising and the tickets, the TV deals surrounding like the Big Ten, the SEC are insane.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't choke up or cough up $4 million to one of the better quarterback prospects out there, regardless of if he didn't have a great year as a sophomore. That's fine. He still has time to develop, and then you can build that continuity.
He had a decent year still.
Yeah, but he was
last tasting in your mouth is that game against Ohio State in the playoff that they just shot to bed. But other than that, I mean, he's had a decent year, and he had
yeah. I mean, like he was making it run. Like the offense wasn't in a bad place because of him. But I mean, let's put this in a context for Wasatch. Say you're a small school, like I don't know, Northern Illinois University, and say you're a whatever receiver like Kenny Galladay. Would you be able to, as a fan of Northern Illinois, then be able to, root for Kenny Galladay, or is he going to dip and go to a better institution? Let's say a blue chipper, Michigan. How would you feel about that, Wasay?
I would be like, hey, if you can't compete with the big leagues, then it is what it is.
It ruins amateurism. You're ruining the state of the game.
I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, we're way past that at this point.
Yeah,
we're into
everyone just go to big money schools. It is what it is. No one gives a damn about the MAC conference, anyways. Who cares?
I mean, Mike Green went to Marshall and he stayed there, and he is
now. Remember that year with CMU? Wasn't that nuts when they went like to the were they in the playoffs or were they in the Sugar Bowl or I forgot where?
SMU.
No. Okay, that was SMU this year, but beforehand, like when
CMU was in the playoff.
CMU was like undefeated that year, and that was the year they had. Oh no, was it CMU or was it Western where they had Corey Davis?
Bro, we're talking about like 8 years. I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah. Another occurrence that happened this big NFL league impacting news. Derek Carr may have a shoulder injury that takes him out of the 2025 season. Now, we had the Saints not taking a quarterback at 9, but if Derek Carr is out, this opens the door wide for someone like Shedeur Sanders to be taken at number 9. What is not only the impact on this injury, Derek Carr is also on like the tail end of his career, but like, how do we feel about the Saints going forward with all the issues that they have, all the cap issues that they have, and now some roster concerns, not only on the defensive and offensive lines, but at quarterback.
The first time in like 2 years, the first time, was it 3 or 5 years? I forgot what I was looking into this. The Saints are finally underneath the cap space, the cap number, right? They were always in the negative. They were dipping into the luxury tax. They're finally in the positive now. I think they have 13 million. Next year, they're due to have 37 million in cap space. Okay? But if you're talking about implications, it's real simple. Derek Carr's career is over in New Orleans. If he's gone this year, they're going to dump him. They're going to find a way to get rid of him. I'm not sure what his cap hit is this year.
This year, it's like not too high, but next year's like $70 million.
They're gonna cut him.
They should just, honestly, at this point, just start fresh. I mean, you have all these bad contracts with void years attached to them. Might as well just start fresh while you're like, while you're going to be bad, and just, wait for the next quarterback prospect that comes out in 2026 or 2027.
What's the alternative, though? Just to play devil's advocate. What's the alternative?
Just be bad for a couple of years. Who cares?
Two other big NFL vets that we have coveted over the years, Patrick Peterson and Julio Jones, both retired this week. And looking back on it, I'm a huge Julio Jones fan, and I always thought that he's one of the better receivers in the 2010s. I think he might be the best receiver outside of Megatron. Since Megatron, I would say, overall. I mean, his combination of size, speed, strength, his ability to get off the line, push defenders off the line of scrimmage even, and then you have that deep ball. I mean, he is, to me, one of the more complete wide receivers in the game.
Feel bad for Julio. But hold on. What are you saying? Are we not? I mean, Julio, let's be honest here, can't get in the end zone. That's a big knock against him. You can't score. You're not going to be considered one of the greats, right?
I think as a talent and as a prospect, he's one of the best ever. I think as a prospect, even coming out, there's like maybe 3 guys that I think are better than him, but
Shouldn't the production match the hype? Well, what are we doing here? I mean,
production doesn't match the hype. He's a 5-time All-Pro.
Yeah, the production matches the hype. He has
The
not.
touchdown numbers are poor like the last couple of years, and then he had like a steep fall off. But
I mean,
he's still a Hall
okay,
of Famer.
I get it. He's a Hall of Famer. Sorry, but let's be honest here. Right? Julio Jones, and I'm looking up his stats right now. For the last how many years here has he not been able to get in the end zone with that same level?
Well, let's not count like the Tennessee years. Let's not count the Tampa Bay years.
We're not talking about Tampa. We're not talking about
his Falcon years. Yeah, because we're not thinking about those.
All right.
Guard.
2023, 3 touchdowns. 2022, 2 touchdowns. 2021, 1 touchdown. Right. Granted, he's getting like minimal targets. Let's go back to his last 4 years in Atlanta. 3 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. Getting into the end zone was a problem for Julio Jones. Let's not make it out that Julio Jones was anything more than a good wide receiver of our era.
No
get the Hall of
way
Fame.
you just said that.
I mean,
Get
I
the
don't think
Hall
he's
of
the best.
Fame.
I don't agree with.
He is.
You can be a top 5 wide receiver of our generation. You can't get in the end zone.
That's fine.
You can't get in the end zone. I don't care about you in the.
If he's being doubled and tripled in the end zone, in
Bro,
red
I
zone
saw Calvin
situations,
being triple team and still.
And I said he's not
greats
better
do
than
it. The greats
Megatron,
do
but
it. The greats get
since
doubled and
Megatron,
tripled.
he's the best receiver.
Okay, well,
He's a
since
better receiver
Megatron,
than
you've
Devontae,
had
better
Antonio
receiver
Brown,
than-
you've had Justin Jefferson, you've had who else off the top of my head?
You say AJ Brown?
Antonio Brown.
I'm taking Julio over
AB, I think is up there.
I'm
I
taking
think
Julio over AB for sure.
AB.
For
Oh
sure, I'm
my
taking Julio
goodness.
over AB.
Bro, you're
This is
tripping.
what I'm
You can
telling
do
you,
so
guys
much
can't
more.
get into this.
You can do so. Did AB have a better quarterback than Julio?
Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, you could be like, oh, they're kind of similar on trajectories. They're both good quarterbacks.
You're saying Matt Ryan and Ben Roethlisberger are equals.
I would say Matt Ryan is better.
They're both good quarterbacks. They're both elite of their time. They're both great quarterbacks of their time.
How do you guys see this class compared to the likes of a great class like 2011?
I don't even think that this class is near. I don't even think this class is near 2023, which was like very similar, like deep edge prospects, deep tight end class. Running backs obviously weren't there. We haven't had a running back class like this since 2017.
Wait, we're applying 2 things. We're applying 2 different rules to it, right? 1, we're grading retroactively. 2, we're like you're asking us to do it in the moment. Okay, I don't know if that's a conversation. I don't know if that's a conversation for us. 2011 is just kind of one of those drafts.
No, 2011 was
no, but 2011 the amount of hype going into it.
Yeah,
was
it was
insane.
very hype. Yeah,
like you had great college prospects, like probably some of the best of all time. You had like guys like Cam, you had Julio, you had Pat Pete. Like these are.
What was Mark Ingram in that draft?
Yep. On Miller, Marcel Darius, AJ Green, like we were talking about before. There's so much talent in this draft. JJ Watt, Robert Quinn, Tyron Smith.
Weren't the Hayward twins out there during that time?
Yeah, it was a great draft. Richard Sherman came out of that draft and he was a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Look at this list. Cam Newton, Mark Ingram, DeMarco Murray, Julio Jones, AJ Green, Randall Cobb was in that draft. Doug Baldwin.
I feel like you don't have many in this class. Like we're talking about the draft, right? Like there aren't any generational players. There's like 15 or 20 in that draft class alone.
Can I say that hold on. Listen, I totally understand about the comment about having generational players there where people were so hype about it. I think that nowadays, nowadays what makes the hype for the NFL is not whether or not the players are good. I think that the players are at a place where they can all develop. They're looking to be, pretty athletic. They're on an even plane, right? Nobody's separating themselves from one another. I think that's a big problem. The second thing is, as of late, the value of draft picks has now come back into play, right? Beforehand, people were handing out draft picks like candy. Let's go, let's buy that chip, let's get back. And now I think there's that longevity play in everyone's mind in the NFL. So nobody is going to give up their picks to like go up there and grab the player, which means creating the hype, right? So people are talking about, is anyone else going to go up and draft Cam Newton? I mean, let's be honest here. Cam Newton is an MVP, but then outside of like 2-3 years, was Cam Newton good?
No, but last year you had guys like Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. These were touted prospects going into the draft.
Wow.
There is nobody near that level in this draft. And you have that year over year, whether you had like guys like CJ Stroud, Will Anderson was a really hyped up edge coming out. You had so many players in previous years, whereas this one seems like there's a lack of that completely. I mean, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tua, that draft, Jamar Chase. There's so much of these players in these drafts every year.
Is this an offensive bias? Because let's be honest here, we got some good players in this draft too.
Bias. Like let's think about like prospects from different draft classes. Like
yeah, I'm gonna go through the draft prospect list in this draft. Okay, you tell me whether or not there's hype behind him. Travis Hunter.
Hype behind Travis Hunter, but because he's a two-way player.
Okay, Abdul Carter.
Yeah, there's hype.
Mason Graham.
There's not enough hype. There's not enough hype on him. Like there was Jalen
Graham
Carter.
has been good all 3 years he's been at Michigan.
Sure, but that's
no hype. He's a blue chipper. We're gonna include him because he's a blue chipper.
No one's arguing. Then why isn't he at the top of the draft?
Because of need. I think that if there was a guy back there, I mean, there was a team up there that needed defensive line help like crazy, right? There were three teams there. Then it would be the conversation, right? The conversation is created by a manufactured narrative, and it's not there because the quality of players is still there. And I'm going to continue. Mason Graham, Ashton Jinty. Here we go. Tyler Warren is there. Okay. Jihad Campbell. Mike Johnson.
Oh my God.
No. Will Johnson. Emeka Ibuka has been coming.
You think that there is hype for these players like there's been hype in past years' first round?
I'm agreeing with you that there isn't hype for these players. I'm saying that it's manufactured. The reason why is because of an offensive bias. People want to see points scored. People want to see all these sort of things. Now that this is a defensive heavy
you're
draft.
telling me that Aiden Hutchinson, when he was coming out of college, didn't have hype. Is there a player in this draft that has the hype that Aiden Hutchinson had?
Aiden Hutchinson has the same level of hype as Abdul Carter.
No way,
what?
Dude.
No
way.
Abdul Carter's being talked about like Will Anderson did, bro. The hype for Will Anderson and Jalen Carter, like, oh, the two best players in the draft, like, who's going to go first? Like, that was a conversation. There's nothing about who's the first guy going to go over.
They consider Abdul Carter to be the clear-cut number one. That's not just because
he's a generational prospect. Is Abdul Carter a generational prospect?
I don't think there's been a generational prospect in the NFL or coming into the NFL since Andrew Luck. So my definition is different.
Oh you're tripping, man.
My definition is different than you guys.
Your definition is very different. You got a whole lot different dictionary.
Jalen Carter was compared to Warren Sapp, like when he was coming out. Jalen Carter was such a great can't-miss prospect. Fortunately, whatever legal issues he went through, like that's why he fell. But he was absolutely a generational prospect. We're seeing that right now. Like everyone's like, he's going to be good. And like now he's probably the most disruptive player on defense in the NFL.
I mean, you don't even have to go back that far to talk about guys like out of college. There's so many players, but
wait, hold on. Can we talk about this really quick? I just want one more thing here. Can you name 5 generational players since Andrew Luck?
Yeah. Which draft? Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison Jr.,
Jamar Chase is not generational. Jamar Chase is not generational. Brock Bowers.
Bro, you're tripping. Jamar Chase was a generational prospect. He was a can't-miss prospect. He was a can't miss.
Hold on. He was can't miss.
Jamar Chase?
Who was his teammate?
Joe Burrow. What does that matter?
No. Justin Jefferson, right? There you go. And Justin Jefferson runs laps around him. So these generational prospects that you're talking about.
God.
Are you kidding me? You would take Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson as a player.
National championship season. Who led the team in yards?
Sure. Who led the team in yards? And then who ended up being the generational prospect? Nobody can tell.
Brother, a generational prospect isn't just like, or is he tall or is he fast? Production, there's all in one skill set level, athleticism, explosiveness, everything all together. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson wasn't a can't-miss prospect. There's the conversation about Justin Jefferson.
Who's better in the NFL?
Who?
Who's better?
Who's better in the NFL? I think they're fairly on even playing field right now.
Who's better? Who's better?
He wasn't a generational prospect. He got picked in the 20s. CD, Jerry Jeudy went before him.
I'm saying though, you guys are missing the point here.
Generational prospect is different than
Jamar Chase was a generational.
You measure a generational prospect by also grading retroactively, and if they are along with their peers. Hold on,
that's
hold
not
on, you
dumb.
have to.
The word
Listen,
prospect.
you
The
have
whole
to.
reason people
Hold
are still hyping about Trevor Lawrence is because they're saying, oh, he can be fixed. He was this generational prospect that can be fixed, but he was still a generational
Thrown
prospect.
around loosely. That's what my point is. There aren't
My
a lot of
point is that
generational
nobody
prospects.
is loosely
And
being
you
talked
need
about
to-
in this draft
Hold on,
class.
hold on. You need to be able to grade retroactively in order to
No,
understand
that's
if
not
your
what
concept
prospect
of
means. What are you
generational
talking?
prospects actually
What is-
works out.
So
Because
Marvin
if you
Harrison
could call
Jr. is not.
anybody, hold on, if you could call anybody any which way for whatever reason because they have the hype that surrounds them or the manufactured whole business of the NFL now, the only true generational prospect that was there was Andrew Luck, and before him it was Peyton Manning. I just want to put that out.
Are we just talking about quarterbacks then?
No, we're talking about generational prospects. I don't know
So
of another.
Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning are the two greatest football players to come out of college. Is what you're saying?
They matched the production. They matched.
Andrew Luck retroactively was what? Is he not how is he still a generational prospect if you're grading him retroactively? He didn't have a great
because it
NFL
panned
career.
out. Because it panned out, Andrew Luck would be a generational prospect. You would say
It
yes,
didn't pan
that
out.
is confirmation.
It didn't pan out.
It didn't pan out for Andrew Luck.
How does it pan out? How did Andrew Luck pan out in the NFL?
Andrew Luck wasn't an All-Pro.
He wasn't an all. How many all pros did he have? I don't think he had an all pro.
You are unbelievable. Hold on,
Brother, look at the quarterback. Look at the quarterback era that we're in. He wasn't an all pro.
Oh, you might be right.
I am. Oh my God, dude. Bro, so what I'm saying is when it comes to prospects, the whole idea of being a generational prospect is someone that you're like, you want to project this guy to be good in the NFL. Whether you're a boom or a bust, that doesn't matter. But as a prospect,
Because it's your measuring stick. If I call the best player in every draft a generational prospect, right? And it doesn't pan out, then should I not change my definition of a generational prospect?
No, because you're a prospect. You're analyzing these players in college going into the league. Like Aaron Donald was not a generational prospect. Why? Size wasn't there. Production was great, but he was a generational talent in the NFL. You understand? Like they're two different things.
The generational prospect means that first and foremost, that they have the ability to succeed at the next level. That is part of it. Okay. So, if they do not succeed at the next level,
what's the other part of it?
Wrong, calling them a generational prospect.
Define the other part of it.
No. Answer my question. If they do not succeed at the next level, were you then wrong calling them a generational prospect?
No, because they were still a generational prospect. That means, see, the thing is, a generational prospect is like their floor, and their floor is already coming to the NFL high, and then their potential on top of it is like, oh, he's gonna be either. I don't know why this is like confusing. It's either he's gonna be an all-pro player. A generational prospect does not change after they get drafted. They were still a generational prospect.
And guys, last year, who even came out last year?
Junior was a generational prospect. He was touted as a generational prospect by everybody. That was even if it was overdone. That was overdone. Called him a generational prospect. I don't think he was generational. Regardless of if it happens or not, he was still a generational prospect. Same with Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison did not have a better year than how many players? He didn't have a better year than Malik Neighbors for sure. Yeah. He didn't have a better year than Brian Thomas Jr. He had somewhat of a marginally close year to Rome Odunze. Is he all of a sudden not a generational prospect? Is Saquon Barkley not a generational prospect?
Hold on, Saquon. What? Saquon? I could say yeah. That's a good argument to make. You know why?
My guy?
Yeah, sure. Hold on a second. Yeah, I could say that. Yeah, that's correct.
And this is a generational prospect.
But why? But why though? But why am I saying Saquon is a generational prospect? You confirm. Reconfirmation.
We gotta move on. Way too much time spent on this, but guys, let us know what you think a generational prospect actually means. Define this. Going deeper into this draft class here, we have a bunch of players that we thought were locks for the first round. Last year, looking at some of the mocks, James Pierce was like a shoo-in to be top overall pick. Yeah. Luther Burden was a top 5 pick. Isaiah Bond was definitely mid to late first round. So much has happened since then, and we want to talk about it. So let's start with James Pierce and Luther Burden. Where do you guys see them actually being projected, and where are they of value? Obviously, the off-the-field stuff is bringing them down a bunch, but if they go into that into that second round, into day 2, I feel like right at the top, if you pick up James Pierce, that's a great pick.
Obviously not in the top 8. Obviously, I think there are better picks available, like blue chippers that are out there for this draft. I think James Pierce's value is somewhere between 10 and 25 at the
Wasson, can I
limit.
ask you a question?
What?
What do you consider makes a blue chip talent at the edge position?
What makes so blue chip talent for the edge position for me, specifically me, is if you want to be considered a blue chipper, it's like you need to have length. Length is really important. So something around 33-inch arms or above, like Abdul Carter is. You want to have good size, good weight on your frame. You want to be anywhere from like 255 plus, like, because it depends on your height too as well. Like if you're 6'3" and you're 255, is different than your 6'5", like James Pierce is in 255. You're more slender frame. You also want the biggest thing to be considered a blue chip a prospect to me as an edge is power. You gotta have speed to power down right away, first and foremost, as an edge rusher, because that means you can then compete with NFL tackles or guards or what have you. If you don't have that power, that baseline power, you're not going to be good. You're going to be more of a rotational piece, like a James Pierce, like a Nolan Smith, James Pierce, even for the Bears, Austin Booker. If you don't have that weight, girth, and power, you're not considered a blue chipper, or you're considered a developmental prospect, where you then have to add weight on your frame for the next couple of years or what have you.
Well, is that enough to push James Pierce down then? Because he's not. He's not. He's a very standard guy. He's more of a true pass rusher. He's not really. He doesn't even play that much. His motor's not that high. These are the reports that are coming out, and then all the other attitude problem. Is he even worthy to go top 15?
The draft falls off around 8 or 9, and then everyone from like 10 to like 45 or 40 all have the same grade. To me, they're all in the same vicinity of each other. I don't think you're gonna get much better, much worse in that range. I think it's like pick your flavors and choose what you want.
Is it fair to say you have 10 blue chippers?
I think I
have
specifically
7.
have like eight blue chippers, and all of the blue chippers, some of them aren't even gonna be in the first round because like of like their RAS scores. Like you think about like Tyler Booker, he's as safe as a prospect. Maybe not scheme transcendent. Like maybe he's not good in like a zone scheme because he's a little bit slower. But he's a Harbaugh offensive lineman, and if you take him in the first round, should be perfectly fine with that. Same thing with Malachi Starks. Not the best RAS score, not the best like testing numbers, but he is a legitimate like blue chip player. Like, he's gonna be top.
Let's talk about Tyler Booker a bit, because he's also on this list as someone who was supposed to be projected in the top 15, top 20 picks, but has now fallen off into the late first round or early second round even. What are some of the traits that you see that you like so much to call him a blue chipper, but also why is he falling so much?
Power obviously is there. Like he has great pad level. I think out of all the offensive line prospects, he has the most. He has his fundamentals down the best. There's nothing wrong with his game. His feet are good. The only thing is like if you ask him to run out in space in zone or wide or outside zone, he may not be able to climb to the second level fast enough. And that's why I think scheme wise, I think he's more limited in scheme that he can be in. So it would be more of a gap scheme. It'd be like a Greg Roman, Baltimore Ravens type scheme that is mainly a gap scheme. I don't see him being more of like a scheme transcendent player or not transcendent. What's the word when you're like a scheme diverse player? He's not that. So that's why I think he'll fall. Maybe he may not even be a first rounder anymore. I think just like we've never seen a person with such a low RAS number go that high in the first round. So I don't think we're going to see him in the first round either.
Another player that we're talking about is Isaiah Bond, who transferred over to Texas. I feel like Isaiah Bond, I've been watching him, or I watched him over his college career, and it was always more hype than actual production.
Yeah.
And then, he promised that he was going to get his 40 time to be around the Xavier Worthy's 40 time, and that didn't pan out. That was pretty embarrassing. What do you see in Isaiah Bond as a prospect?
Long strider. Well, no, I'm sorry, not long strider. He's obviously a deep threat. The problem is we haven't seen him do more than just catching the ball. And I think it's more of a problem with like Quinn Ewers, because we saw this with Xavier Worthy last year and Adonai Mitchell, where he didn't, hit his receivers on time or on target. So like I'm willing to give these Texas wide receivers like the benefit of doubt. But the problem with Isaiah Bond is like he ran a decent 40 time, but nothing that was like, elite. Like not as a
Stand out in
I
a
agree with that. But Bond has 3 years of tape. You hurt my feelings. You went after Quinn, so we got beef now. You and Quinn, we know each other on first name basis. Listen, Bond just hasn't been able to take the next step year over year. That's the problem. Bond as a player is solid, but showing improvement, it just kind of shows your ceiling is low. That's the problem with Isaiah Bond. That's why people don't want to draft him. And then obviously, I think legal issues that just started for him. He's just not going to be someone that's fifth round and lower. That's just what it is for Isaiah Bond now.
Yeah, I think he had I think originally before like his pro day numbers came in, I think he still had a chance to be like a third round pick. But I think with just how poor his testing numbers have been, he's not agile. Like his 3-point whack, his
body control. He kind of like throws his body around when he needs to make the catch. He starts and stops, and it seems like he's got his route running down, but then like it just doesn't come together. That's what it is for me.
Yeah, I think like he's not great in terms of like at the top of the route. I don't think he finds a way to like accelerate faster than like over the top. He's, I thought someone for like Ben Johnson's system, I thought he'd be like the JMO for Ben Johnson, like he could be, but
No, I don't
he's
think
not
he's that. Yeah, he's not
He's
that.
not that at all.
And then another player that also fell off was Luther Burden, and this has a lot to do with his production and injury over the 2024 season. He kind of reminds me of like a Debo, but he's smaller and he can get pushed around at the line. And you guys' thoughts on Luther Burden?
Same thing. I think he's just like Debo or DJ Moore, but much smaller. I think right at the gate as a slot receiver, he'll be great, but I think he's also he can play the flanker spot. He's not a traditional X, but his game is like run after catch. Like anything after the catch, that's basically what he excels at. And I think in the NFL, he'll be just fine, especially when it comes to like these short dink and dunk type of offenses of like screens and, passes behind the line. I think he'll be just fine. I still love Luther Burden. He's still top 3 wide receiver for me. I think he's going to be great regardless, and he deserves
Luther Burden's solid. The thing is, the dropping that's happening right now, I don't understand. There's no reason in my mind for people to just soften on him after 3 years of production. He was good.
He fell off this season though, pretty significantly.
I mean, wasn't he injured?
He was injured, and he was supposed to be like a Heisman candidate. That's how good he had last year. But he came into this year and
his last year, they were like, "Oh man, we have another generational wide receiver prospect coming about." Yeah. He kind of fell hard.
Adil, your guy, Will Johnson, throughout the year, he's pretty much a lock for a top 5 to top 7 player, but nobody's talking about him in that range anymore. What's going on?
I will say this. I don't need anyone to come in and let me know that, this guy's just a hater. I will tell you right now, I hate Travis Hunter. Not that he's not a good player. I think that the hype that this guy has took away from my boy Will Johnson. Will Johnson has put on 3 years of great tape. He's a good player. This last season, you get all the changes over in production. Over in coaching, and that affects your production a little bit. I understand that. He plays good man, plays good zone. This guy
he was injured, right?
He's good.
Yeah,
he was injured.
Was he injured most of the year?
He was. I think he was off and on injured. I feel like what he did, and I think this is what happened with Will Johnson, is that I feel like he was just saying, I know that this team isn't really there. He gets into that play in the beginning of the year. You're working with these D2 level teams. You're playing against some really low competition. Goes out, puts on a tape. He's injured, yes. But it's one of those injuries where it's like, if my season mattered, I'd play through it. And because he wasn't really doing that. He was focusing on the draft since, I think, game 6 or 7. I think that's the reason why people soured on him, because they said, okay, if you're not going to put tape on, even in a season that doesn't really matter to you, we're going to give the hype to this guy, Travis Hunter here. Travis Hunter's a great player. I just think that this whole, he's a Heisman player. He's a Heisman player. Okay. It shouldn't have gone to him. Should have gone to Genty to begin with. And at a certain point, how are you going to be able to play 2 positions, right? Will Johnson's a guy who knows he's going to come to work. He's going to, roll up his sleeves. He's going to put on the tape, and he's going to be consistent. The fact that he's dropping has to do with the fact that there's no manufactured hype around him. That's the reason why this guy has been great for 2-3 years. What's the point?
I've watched a lot of his tape, because I like Will Johnson a lot, and he's one of my blue chippers in the draft. Compare him to Patrick Surtain, I think he's just as good. I don't think he's as refined as Patrick Surtain is, and we obviously don't have testing numbers to compare it. But I think his style is just like Patrick Surtain's. The biggest thing about Will Johnson and why he started falling, it started from the national championship game where he got beat a lot on the double move by Rome a lot. He bit every double move and got beat pretty badly. And the ones that didn't get converted when he got beat were just overthrows by Penix. And so we started to see a downfall last season in the national championship game, but people gave him the benefit of the doubt because one, they won, and two, like he didn't allow any touchdowns, I think. But since then, not only with the injury, but also like not showing, the same type of discipline that people wanted him to see, they wanted to see from him this year, hadn't come about. But I think that if you compare his tape from like just his first 2 seasons at Michigan, meaning last year and the year before, you'd be like, man, this guy's going to be an all-pro wide cornerback in the NFL, and he's going to be great regardless. I think all of those Michigan guys were protecting their draft stock, and that's why I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he should be less than a top 10 pick. The idea that he's fallen to 14, 15, 20 like is ridiculous to me. I think if the Bears get him at 10, and I said this earlier today in our group chat, if he's there at 10, you go and grab him. I don't care what needs you need to fill. He is a legitimate blue chip prospect, and he's going to be great in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, taking Will Johnson over that period, like if you're in the 10 range and you've got an edge there, you're not getting, one of the top 2 guys. And I think that there's a big fall off after them. There's going to be a value at the edge position later in the draft. So Will Johnson, I would certainly take Will Johnson over an edge.
Absolutely. Anyone should.
Let's talk about more of like projecting guys that we think could be good in the league that are really late in the draft, starting with Tate Ratledge. I know both of you guys are really high on Tate Ratledge. Take us through that a bit.
For me, Tate as the best way that he's been described is like an offensive tackle and in with a right guard's arm length. And so he's a more slender guy. He's not the most wide dude in the world that you would want from a offensive guard. But I think like just like the ability of like how athletic he already is at 313, 310, or whatever he's playing at right now. And then what his baseline is as a pass blocker is what I think will make him great in the NFL. He's already super great. He's already so good at like climbing the second level as an outside zone offensive lineman. Maybe he's not the best for like gap schemes because he's a little bit slender. So when you go on a pull and for out of him, he's not going to be a mauler right now. I think if he adds some weight, like another 10 pounds, he's going to be one of the best guards in the NFL. I think he is a perfect guard. He can't play offensive tackle. He doesn't have that versatility. And I don't think he's played anywhere outside of like the right guard position in college. But he's been the most consistent right guard in I keep saying the NFL, but in college football, and he has been for over 2,000 snaps. So the experience is there, the leadership is there, the demeanor is there, the athleticism is there. I think he should be talked about more than what he is right now.
The reason why I was so high on Ratledge coming out was because I think it's also because he wasn't being talked about as one of the main interior offensive linemen when draft season started. I was like, oh, Tate's my guy. Not that I'm like, I've softened on him or anything, but I feel like that was the thing as a pass blocker, Tate's the man, right? That's one of his bread and butter. And like on the right hand side there, usually QBs are looking over. You don't want anybody really playing the passing lanes at the line. And I think Tate's really good at that. He's really good at swallowing up like a defender that comes in that way. But as a run blocker, that's the thing that once he said, he doesn't maul people. So like, what am I supposed to do with that? I like him. He should be taken high in the draft. Third to second round, I would totally take Tate Ratledge. But you want someone with a mean streak, and it just doesn't feel like it. And I don't really think he's that athletic. He's good because he's not, he stays in his lane. I think that's the problem. That's the reason why Tate hasn't been highly touted.
I think his athleticism is why he's that great. But anyways, I mean I digress.
Two guys Otto likes both teammates. On Cam Ward's Miami Hurricanes is Elijah Arroyo and Damian Martinez. Damian Martinez had a lot of hype coming into this year, and somehow he kind of flew under the radar, even though he performed pretty well.
He's performing well every year.
The draft is crazy. The running back class is insane. And
so, Aldo, why don't you take us through Damian Martinez and Elijah Arroyo?
Okay, well, let me pull up my notes here. I want to talk about Elijah Arroyo first. So the reason why I like Elijah Arroyo is because he would, I think, be a star in the NFL. Like, let's be honest here. He's one of those guys that can line up in the slot and is really out there, like, getting peppered with those targets. And he makes the most of them. He can run after the catch. He's super athletic, very long guy. But then you have this like really big hole in like blocking. And as a blocker, like you can work on that, I guess, if you get in the right coaching, system and people are really working with you on that. But then I think of like people like Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta is not the greatest blocker. He's a willing blocker. He's not the greatest blocker. But then as a receiver, he's kind of like a wide receiver, right? He's very smooth. He has great hands. He has the ability to get downfield after the catch, like pretty well. Like this guy is someone who is a one hit wonder if you take it in the scope of his career. But Elijah Arroyo could surprise people with the level of production he could have if he goes to the Chiefs. Heir apparent to Travis Kelsey, like they don't need to have a guy who's in there blocking. He brings another weapon to Patrick Mahomes. They're not really a downfield person. Patrick Mahomes likes to dump it off. He's very methodical, and Elijah Arroyo could help out. I think that's a good fit there.
Yeah, I think he's a very similar to, I won't say he's Kelsey. It's kind of like sacrilegious to say that, but I compared him a lot to like being like a bigger Evan Brown because he's a big slot type of tight end. He's a great route runner, good hands. He's actually not a bad blocker at all. He is very willing on tape. I would say he's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. But the chops are there, and that's why I like him a lot. I think he's like right now my number 4 tight end in a very good tight end class.
All right, Damien Martinez. I understand that we were talking about how like this is a loaded draft class, and that's why he kind of fell. I think it's also because he's not the best pass catcher. He's great in pass protection, not the greatest. He's not dynamic. It's not as if he has hands of stone. It's more so like he just isn't looking for it. He'd rather have the ball in his hand, go downhill. No, you know what? He's not even a downhill runner. He's pretty light on his feet, all things considered. But he's very solid.
He can. He has downhill abilities.
He can. He's strong. He's really thick too. Like just being able to like put your head down and fall forward is a big, thing in the NFL. I think he has the capability of doing that. So Damien Martinez, I think, would be great as like a 2-back. Someone that's coming in on the third down passing situations, needs to pass protect, or if it's short yardage, they need someone to fall forward, hand it off to him. He would be great in that system. I think Damien Martinez has some value.
I ditto that. I think he's great too. I think to me he reminds me a lot of James Conner. I think he's a better pass catcher than we actually think, or he can develop that. He's not obviously a slick route runner, but he can get you on a screen and get you on a dump off, and he can save a quarterback on third down. Decent pass blocker, but I also think he's one of the best running backs in this class. He's so slept on. I actually like Damien Martinez a lot more than the consensus do.
Hey, Martinez or Caleb Johnson?
Oh,
Martinez.
Caleb Johnson.
To me, Martinez.
Let's hear it. Dream, let's hear it.
To me, Martinez. I love Martinez. I love
You
Martinez.
hate Caleb Johnson.
I don't hate him. I just think he is one of the most overrated prospects right now.
Lasse hates Nick Emanwari and Caleb Johnson, and those are two of my favorite
absolutely
players.
Very overrated. If someone turn on the tape, he is not as good. Because he scored a 10 on like the rat score on testing on the combine. People are like, oh my god, he's great.
He's a monster.
Same thing with Shamar Turner or whatever his name is.
Shamar Stewart, I get.
Like Emanwari is like lacks so much instincts as a player despite how athletic he is.
Speaking of Shamar Stewart and his lack of actual production, a player that I really like that's a huge sleeper is Quandarius Robinson out of Alabama. He played under guys like Will Anderson and Chris Braswell. Who did the Vikings get last year? Dallas Turner. I think he's only played like
not that many snaps,
300 snaps or something like that in his 2 seasons, and played 9 games this year. What you see on the field, his actual tape, he's a game wrecker. He has ideal weight and height, and his moves are decent. And if he gets a little more development, sure, he's raw.
I think
he's as raw as they get probably, but he's got power and he's got speed. And I think in those later rounds, if you want to take a shot on upside and a potential great pass rusher that can come out of the later rounds, this guy's your guy.
Yeah. What I compared him most to was Leonard Floyd because he started off as an off-ball linebacker and then switched to edge. More frame, slender guy, long arms. I think he has the ability to be good. Have him like my number 5 outside linebacker, like for a 3-4 system. I don't think he's an even front guy. He's definitely going to be an outside linebacker who can drop into coverage too because he has that capability.
But his first step is insane. He's got a first step winner of like 19%.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't see that much in him. I think he's a decent prospect, like for a good depth piece. I don't think he's a prospect Leonard Floyd was because Leonard Floyd was a crazy athlete. He was a great athlete. Quay did not perform in any test numbers. I think he only did like broad jump and like his vertical.
Because that's where he excels, his length.
Yeah, I think he's like 246, 250, maybe less than that.
I think he's like 231.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be done with him. But do I think he can be a player, a rotational dude? Yeah, absolutely. I think he can be a DPR somewhere, a pass rusher. excited to see what he can do. I mean, he's number 5 for me in my outside linebacker.
And then the last guy we want to touch on before we close out. This is also one of the stories of the draft that I kind of find intriguing is that there's a lot of players that if they went last year and declared for last year's draft, they probably would have gone a lot higher.
Yeah.
Guys that come to mind for me are Kevin Winston Jr., Penn State, the safety. And then another guy that I want to talk about is Torrey Horton, who came on the scene during the Colorado versus Colorado State game in 2023. Epic between the two. I think it was like double overtime.
Yeah, it was a solid
Great game.
I don't even like college.
Player stood up in Colorado State because you have no idea who's on Colorado State, right? You just hear about Dion and the Sanders boys and all. Torrey Hort is 3 years of straight production.
Yeah.
He's a great X.
Yeah.
He's got blazing speed. His on-game tape, on film tape, is actually really, really intriguing. Due to a couple injuries and then the lack of production this year versus last year, he's really dropped down. But I think he could be a productive receiver. And there's so many teams, like the Bills come to mind as a team that just desperately, desperately needs an X. I feel like he could fit that role completely.
Yeah. I like Torrey Horton a lot too. I think his production has been great. Last year that he came out, I think he would have been a top 10 wide receiver prospect. I think he would have been right above Xavier Legette, and then who's I think Xavier Legette. Would you say XL
Like
Legette was
Keon.
10? Above Keon, above XL Legette? I think he would have been a top 10 wide receiver, top to bottom. He would have been drafted in the second or late first round, in my opinion. I think like he's still developing like his frame for like being like a physical X receiver. He's a little too thin. I think like a 185, maybe 190.
Yeah.
But I think he has great speed and he can add some more to his body. If he adds another 10 pounds, 15 pounds, I think he won't lose a lot of weight either on top of that. Because a lot of speed on top of that. He ran like a 4.41. And I think he's also like a very agile receiver as well too. So he can run any route, can play inside or outside. I think he had like a good amount of slot snaps this year as well too. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see where he is. I think he's a top 5 receiver in the draft class. Not top. I'm sorry, not top 5.
Top 5.
Not top 5. I'm sorry. I think he's a top. I can't rank all of them. Yeah, top 10 for sure.
I like him in the range like the Jalen Lanes, the Knowles, the Jack
Lane's
Besh.
pretty low. No, he's like 4th round.
Yeah, I think Torrey Horton's going to go in I'm thinking that he's going to go late second, third round maybe.
Late second, third round is usually a safe thing bet for every day right now because that's kind of where I'm ranked.
Yeah.
So eventually someone's going to push the.
But let us know if you guys think our sleepers in this draft. If there's any crazy late picks that you guys have, put them in our comment section. And we'll have so much more draft coverage over the next few weeks. Draft is next week.
2 weeks.
Like next Thursday.
Oh,
yeah. That's going to be great. That's crazy. I'm just flying.
I'm excited, man. I need some NFL content.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. But as always, let's close out the show. You guys can find us on our socials at Into the Wild NFL on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Any closing remarks from you guys?
I think we got to define what a generational prospect is because I was still thinking about that conversation and golly, I've never met someone so wrong, but believing he was so right.
Higher intellectuals understand that, lesser beings have a harder time. If we understand, I get it, guys. It's fine. I don't hold it against you. In fact, it humbles me. It brings me down to like, I understand. It just feels like I'm part of you guys now,
Josh Connerly in the first round.
Turn back in again. For Anton Watson, I'm Nadeem. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
Hut, hike!